So imagine, as we jump into the techniques, that you can engage your toughest clients. That's going to be the first technique right out of the chute tonight, and treat the entire traumatized family or couple with immediate and positive outcomes. So let's start with engagement. In the research, we found that if we cannot engage the toughest families or couples, game over. Therapy ends before it begins. The other problem we ran into, and I don't know if you guys have run into the same thing, is parents especially will come in, or caregivers, and they'll be like, just fix my kid. You know, call me when the session's over. How many of you have experienced that one, okay? And it's frustrating because you know that if you return the child who's traumatized back to the same traumatized family, the chances of relapse just explode. And how heartbreaking has it been for me, and probably you as well, where the child looks healthier than the family does after treatment, yet you know that the whole is greater than some of the parts. So I had a light bulb moment. I started putting words around what was happening during the research. A harsh versus soft startup. A harsh startup, to me, was the traditional startup was not soft. It was a phone call to schedule the first appointment. I might say to the person on the phone, let me give you a few reminder calls. Sometimes the front desk was the one who set it up. And what I realized is that a soft startup where if parents could come to the first session, whether it was online or in person, could I do something to create a soft startup? Because how many of you agree with this statement? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So from this, my challenge was, what tool or technique am I going to develop to issue a soft startup and dramatically increase motivation? I don't want people just to show up once. I want them to keep returning and motivated and excited. So I was like, man, how can I work smarter, not harder? So this is where the technique, the FFT Motivational Tool, was birthed, where it motivated even our toughest clients to they'll show up and cooperate. So I'll give you a sample of one of the key questions. It was a 7-question, 15-minute phone call, and I'm going to show you one of the main ones that was the game-changing moment, and you're going to hear an interview with the mom who received this phone call, and she's going to tell us why the soft startup was totally a game changer for her, because she had been in treatment since the age of 4. Okay, so so Marguerite comes to me with this problem. She's in the course, right, and she's saying, look, because I have office hours every Friday, because one of the things I wanted to do is come alongside people who take the course so that they can gain access to me and I can help them onboard these techniques. And so anyway, she says to me, I have a single-parent mom. Her name is Keisha. She has suffered dramatic domestic violence or generational trauma all her life. She feels hopeless. CPS has been called in. She's living out of her car. She won't show up for treatment. I don't know how to engage her. And I say, okay, from your description, I believe this is a harsh startup. And she said, what's a harsh startup? I said, imagine if you could take these 7 questions that I'm going to teach you and use it with Keisha, and I'm going to do it with you, okay, as a kind of in the role of consultant, and let's see what happens. So she goes, okay. So I direct her to Module 2 of the course, and I say, I want you to watch this lesson. It'll show case examples so you can really get it quickly. And then you'll also hear what happens with her case with the podcast. So she goes to the lesson, and here's the question. The second question in these 7 questions is the game changer. So after Marguerite asked Keisha, and you can do this in person or on the phone, She says, what have been some of the stressors you've been under? And she talks about how she's going to lose her kids. And then she says, with me, when I get to know you better, what qualities would I come to admire about you as a parent? Now, Keisha says, I don't know any. And what you see in the course is not only the content, but how to deliver it. So Marguerite says, well, let me guess. Well, anyways, as Marguerite starts to guess, it warms Keisha up, and she just starts talking about qualities and strengths that you're going to hear in this post-interview. So I interviewed Keisha a month or two later after this technique is used. And I want you to listen to what the soft startup does for her. This question she refers to over and over again as for her a life-giving moment of a difference that makes a difference, where she had never experienced a therapy session in this way, where the therapist strategically, she doesn't use the word strategically, asks this question, and you'll hear what the difference is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So let's listen to Keisha. She's going to tell us as our co-therapist here why this technique and specifically this question made the difference. Let's listen in here.
What was most helpful, do you think, about that interview, thinking back on it? What did it leave you with? What was helpful?
What that left me with was a sense of hope, because I was able to really take a step back out of the situation and just look at myself and just understand, like, hey, you really are very smart, and hey, you really are a strong person. That helped, because sometimes when you're going through crises or when you are in the midst of different changes in life, you as a person don't really look at yourself. You just, as a person, you look at yourself as the victim, or you look at yourself as help me, but you never look at yourself and say, I am strong. And that kind of gave me another bird's eye view to look at my strengths versus my weaknesses. That it kind of shed the light on the strengths that and qualities, good positive qualities that I do possess versus the negative qualities.
So for me, the first must-have trauma tool is that our families are suffering from so much generational trauma, and they hurt bad, that we have to start treatment off soft. And the other 6 questions as well really kind of come around that as well. So that's number 1 I wanted to share with you as a real game changer. The second one follows up with this. Now, I saw in my research that therapists and colleagues of mine would say, yeah, I kind of engage the extended family, but I mostly see just the family that lives under the same roof. I'll be honest with you, I see more individuals than I do family members, and bringing the aunts and uncles and institutions, I'm familiar with wraparound. But I'll be honest with you, when all those people are in the room for a town meeting, I'm not sure what to do with them. It makes me stressed out when they're loaded for bear and they're ready to just emotionally throw up on each other. It's scary. I know intuitively that when I work with trauma, it takes a village, but I haven't been taught in graduate school exactly how to do this. So we saw that one of the things that was happening was we were doing what before who. Let me tell you where I got this idea from. Of all things, a business book. There was a great business book called Good to Great, and Jim Collins interviewed CEOs of major companies, and he wanted to see what were the core elements that made companies thrive and go from good to great. And I read it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this applies to mental health too. So here's what he said. He said, we have to start with who before what. He said, you have to have the right people on the bus. You got to get the wrong people off the bus. And you got to get the right people in the right seats. And I was like, whoa, I could have had a V8, right? And so a lot of the cases that I saw were stuck was that I didn't do the who before what. When I saw a traumatized family, individual, or couple, I was like, what's the goal? I wasn't pausing to say, wait, do we have the right people on the bus? Are they motivated? And when I started bringing in the extended family, it was the heavens opened up. It was like suddenly I had co-therapists in the room. I didn't have to work as hard. I started thinking, wow, that's why Alcoholics Anonymous works so well, because you have sponsors. So Tamara also took the course, and she said, I love this idea, but I'm stuck here. I have a family, and I know that Dylan, who's coming out of psychiatric care, is going to re-enter a unchanged system. I said, so tell me what the basics are. He said, he's 15 years old. He came in to the hospital for aggression, and he's been there, and I know the parents are on the same page, because the village is not engaged at all. There's been a bitter divorce in custody. I don't know how to engage these parents. We got parents on the East Coast, the biological dad and the stepmom, and on the West Coast, we've got mom and her husband. And the grandfather, the maternal grandfather, is part of the problem, because every time things get tough, Dylan just calls his grandfather and he divides and conquers. So I said let's go to lesson 2, where we're going to use a diagnostic village assessment, because we want to win the battle for structure. In other words, this is you on the left side. You're pulling the family. And did you know, Tamara, that whoever defines the problem controls the treatment? Let me pause here and let that sink in. If you don't define the treatment that we need the whole village in, and the family is the definition of treatment, just see my child. If that's not working, you have to contend for who before what. So she gives the family this village handout, because before she would have a self-fulfilling prophecy where it was like, do you have a village? Most of her clients say, no village. Or they'd say, we've burnt all of our bridges. They're not going to come in. And so, the grandfather is put down. He's supportive, but the parents are skeptical to bring him in. Tamara uses the tools in the course to convince the family that they must have this through Zoom, because the entire course has Zoom case examples so you can see it. So not only are you going to use the course for the sake of the techniques, but you're also going to see how to do online therapy with excellence. So here, imagine if you get the who before the what. One of the people that took the course, name was Michael. He says, okay, I'm not sure where to tap. I'm going to bring to you what's an impossible case. And I said, how do you define impossible? Well, this child has defeated 5 other therapists before me. I said, well, that's a good indicator of impossibility, because they've defeated other therapists. He's 10. He says his aggression is out of control because he just threw a playmate down the flight of stairs and actually broke his collarbone. The school doesn't want him there at all. They've isolated him. They're just basically like, not in my neighborhood. They're trying to do everything they can to push him out. The attachment's huge. Postpartum depression was huge with mom. She really, when she had Dexter for really 2 years, there was no physical touch. I suspect that is huge. The parents' marriage is really bruised right now, because this has gone on for so long that they're sniping at each other. They're on different pages philosophically, and the village is not engaged. In fact, when I talk about the village, they're like, we've burned all our bridges. So I would like to know how to engage the village, but I'd also like to know what the undercurrent is. And imagine if for your practice, you were able to know the undercurrent, have a clear step-by-step path to get to the undercurrent, and know what it is. So I directed him to lesson 1, where he saw how to put these undercurrents together. And let me share with you Well, what he found. He found that the symptoms of disrespect and temper tantrums were connected directly to these undercurrents. The mom and dad were inconsistent. There was drama equals trauma. The mom screamed at Dexter all the time, lectured him, nagged him. There was a lack of support. There was high anxiety. Michael, with the family, said that the two healthy undercurrents that had to replace these unhealthy ones was that we had to mobilize the village and that Dexter had to feel safe and secure. We also need to contend for soft talk and praise and consistency, but out of all the four healthy undercurrents, these were the top two. One of the things that we do as helpers is we want to get to second order change. First order change means that the family changes because we're working with them, but they haven't adopted a new operating system. They haven't adopted these healthy undercurrents as their own. So when stress occurs and treatment ends, they go right back to status quo because what we've done is we've pulled the weeds and we haven't gotten to the roots. One of the things that I think you'll love about this model is that it will give you a searchlight, a beacon, to know exactly where to go, to know where to tap. And so Michael is still saying, okay, now that I know where the undercurrent is, this is now what? What do I do to take the undercurrent and pivot that to a intervention that will help the family incorporate these healthy undercurrents? Now, we saw Cynthia talk about what happened, so you're going to see the playbook that was used right now to get Cynthia to be so joyous and saying it worked. So let me ask you this question here. So Michael needed both. He needed the undercurrent and he needed a playbook or an antibiotic and then you'll see in a moment how this works. So with Dexter's family, you just saw a second ago, Mom talked about the undercurrent of going from A to B, before treatment, after treatment. Here's what it was. The playbook we found is simple. In lesson 3, Michael looked at it as well as other students have looked at it, how to create the playbooks, and here's what it looks like. It's an antidote, like an antibiotic. Families like that metaphor. And if you take the course, you will also get the book as part of the course, and you'll see in chapter 8, there's like a top chef menu of techniques that you can choose that like a recipe menu of what interventions are actually going to put in the healthy undercurrent. In this case, security, unconditional love, and forgiveness. So Michael picks out strengthening the family connection. So now what does this look like? It's who, what's the intervention or the antibiotic or the Z-Pack, when is it going to be delivered, where is it going to be delivered, and how is it? How many of you have ever experienced, by a show of hands, will you give the family something verbal or, it's not clearly defined in writing and predetermined, and the family is not able to, onboard the intervention because they've been stuck so long? Well, this is what we found all the time. So here, we came with the family a draft, and it was the who is going to be dad, mom, younger brother Maxim, grandfather, look at the village is involved, the uncle and the neighbor. What is it going to be? His love language is physical touch because of the, postpartum depression, attachment issues. And little Maxim is going to hold up cue cards that say, you are loved, Dexter, you are part of this family. And during the day, the dad could call a group hug, and when is it going to be? In the morning, they have to determine what time it is, where is it going to be at home, and look at the how. Dad's going to get everyone together, there's going to be a long group hug, and Dad's going to do it in the evening. Now, how this got going was this family was so stuck that they were skeptical. They were like, this isn't going to work. And what we sometimes see is that we want our clients to act their way into a new way of thinking instead of think their way into a new way of acting. So he said to the family, would you do a 30-day experiment? And they said, no, we'll do 2 weeks. We said, fine. We're going to do role plays. We're going to do dress rehearsals. We're going to practice this. We're going to work out everything that could go wrong. And what happened is so much of our therapy is that we want to do insight work. But when you're having a family that's stuck, sometimes you have to just say to them, would you experiment? Will you fake it till you make it? This worked, and it changed everything. So these are the 4 must-have trauma tools: the motivational phone call, the extended family, the undercurrents tied with the trauma playbook. Okay, so I wanted you to hear from our graduates because these are wonderful people. They were the founders of the course. I believe in beta testing things. I believe that I want to give things with excellence, and I believe in the adage, do it right the first time. So our graduates are Najee and Candace, and I wanted to ask each of them, not take too long, but ask each of them, you guys are fresh from graduating from the course. What was it like for you? What were some of the moments for you? So I'm going to ask Najee first, and then Candace. So Najee, you graduated and you even have your T-shirt on because could you show the T-shirt? Okay. So everybody that joins the course gets the T-shirt and a mug. Yeah, okay. Not everybody gets the mug, but what I wanted to hear from you because what were some things about the course that were life-giving for you or transformative? If you wouldn't mind.
Okay. So the difficulty is going to try to be short and precise and concise. And that is this, Scott, the course helps the therapist move the problem from the child to the family, to the village, to even the transpersonal. When I say transpersonal, I ask you to come in as a consultant with a family whose the grandparents was raising the grandson because the father was murdered. A black man was shot by a cop. He was murdered, and this is going on right now. And the grandmother had all of the sons, the one who was shot, all of his things up in the attic. How do you bring somebody into a therapy situation and they're not even living? Scott, you showed me that. The course showed me that. And for those of you who are thinking like, well, this is good, it sounds good, it's really too much, I would have to ask you to really reconsider because I'm a doctorate student. I work full time. The course is structured in such a way that it's like falling out of bed and going right into what comes next. Everything is so soft and so smooth and so continuous. Before you know it, 12 weeks are up and you're like, wow, I'm now ready for this family thing.
So Candace, what about you? How is the course for you since you graduated, or what's been your take?
Well, my take is that I'm glad I didn't wait to take it. I thought at first that I could probably just learn from the book. And I'm really glad I bit the bullet and took the course because there was so much more in the course that I would have missed from just trying to get it from a book. There were case studies in the course, and of course you doing the live training, and it just made a really massive difference. And it changed what I could do with families like within 4 sessions, like immediately. So I'm looking at these chats here, and I saw a couple people bring up some concerns about involving extended family members who maybe aren't in the life of the family due to the parents having to create boundaries due to abuse. And I just want to say, the villagers, it's not necessarily like family that's related. It's family in the sense of like, this is my village, these are my people, and these are the people we can count on and connect with.
So here's what you're going to get if you decide to take the course. You're going to get a password, and you're going to get a library. It looks like this. This will be your course home. You'll have the course view for the course itself, and you'll also be asked to join. It's not required, but the Facebook community that's private. You'll get a course calendar where you'll have 12 techniques, and you'll get the first thing is next week. We're going to open up the Facebook on the 22nd. We're going to have an orientation kickoff that's going to be a lot of fun to give you an orientation. And we're going to start our office hours on Fridays. If you can't come, that's fine. It'll all be in your course on demand. And you could submit questions before. Then we go to week 2, which is the motivational interview, and Friday office hours, and so on. So you'll get all 12 techniques at once, because people and the founders were like, man, I want to go faster than once a week. So we're like, okay, but to keep you on pace, you're welcome to just do one module 1 week, or if you want to go faster, you can go faster. So in sum, you're going to have the office hours with me. You're going to have the 12 techniques with 3 bite-sized videos per technique and the worksheets. And you're going to get real case examples like you saw today. You're going to learn how to also utilize these to do online counseling with excellence, because every case study is with Zoom, and you're going to see in office hours how we adapt, and you will use this if you are doing telemedicine. Also, you're going to be part of a private Facebook community. There's a video search engine that's state-of-the-art technology where if you're going into a session, you can put any term that you use in the course, like reframing, and instantly, like Google on steroids, those video clips will be brought up so you can go right away to that term, and it'll also have a transcript so you can search with speed what you want in the course. You're also going to get 12 continuing education units, 1 unit per module, and you're going to also have an advanced training badge at the end that you will use proudly on your business cards, on your signature line, and then some of you who are at a master's level want to take it to the next level, because we're having a lot of people want to do FFT certification, which basically means I've got the advanced training, and now I want to have private consulting for 5 months to onboard this with an actual case. And you will have my team with you. And we're having a search engine at the end of the year where people are going to find families and institutions. I want to find people that are family systems trauma certified. And so if you are ready to check it out, because the cart is going to close next Wednesday because I do cohorts, okay? You can enroll today. And you would just go to Get FST Digital. There'll be a video so that you can see an overview of the course. You can send it to colleagues, whatever you want to do. So you'll see that when you go to that website, you will be able to click on, and these are the highlights: the course material, the digital version of the book, the office hours with me, the private Facebook community, and the cost is $5.95.